Imagine you're just sitting in a completely routine Tuesday morning meeting. You've presented a project you've been working on, and a coworker suggests a tiny, just a seemingly harmless tweak to your timeline.
Right. Totally normal.
Yeah, totally normal. But suddenly your heart is absolutely pounding, like your jaw is tight, your palms are starting to sweat, and you're suddenly ready for war.
Yeah, fight or flight.
Exactly. And it's like, why did a simple, mundane piece of feedback just trigger a biological threat response? I mean, why does your body feel like a tiger just jumped out of the boardroom whiteboard?
It's wild, isn't it?
It really is. So today we are diving into exactly why that happens and, more importantly, how it shapes literally everything we do. We're looking at Danielle Body's highly anticipated 2026 book, Leading with Presence, a guide to mindful leadership.
Which is such an essential text right now.
Oh, absolutely. And for you listening, this is basically a masterclass drawn directly from the Insight for Alignment framework. And our mission today for this deep dive is to shatter a massive misconception right out of the gate. And that is, presence is not a personality trait.
No, it absolutely is not. And yet,
Right.
I mean, that's how it's usually treated, right? In corporate culture especially.
Right.
We think of presence as like natural charisma or being the loudest, most confident voice in the room. Or even worse, we think it's this performative calm
Mhm.
where you just, fake a smile and nod serenely while the building is actively burning down around you.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because the source material defines presence as an internal capacity, it calls it an invisible architecture.
Yes.
It's the framework that dictates how we inhabit our own lives. And whether you are leading a Fortune 500 company or, managing a local team or just trying to navigate daily interactions with your family, the state of your inner world is quietly, constantly shaping your outer reality.
It really is. It's the foundation.
Yeah, and presence is the difference between outward behavior, which, you can curate and fake for a little while, and inward architecture, which is what actually holds you up when the pressure is on. It's the ability to remain connected to yourself and to reality without just disappearing into an emotional reaction.
Right. And to understand how to build that invisible architecture, we really have to look at what actively destroys it. The book calls our core saboteurs our unhealed narrative.
Unhealed narrative.
Exactly. These are the ghosts in the room. They are the deeply rooted stories we tell ourselves regarding our worth, our safety, our sense of belonging, or our fear of failure and rejection.
Wow. Yeah.
And they operate completely beneath the surface of our adult lives. They're just always there, humming in the background.
So let's play this out. I'm in that Tuesday meeting I mentioned. My unhealed narrative is triggered because someone questioned my timeline. I'm not just mentally annoyed, am I?
No, not at all.
I mean, my body is physically reacting. What is actually happening biologically in that split second?
What's fascinating here is the sheer speed of that internal departure. The moment that unhealed wound is touched, say, like a fear of not being respected, your brain's amygdala actually overrides your prefrontal cortex.
Wait, really? It just shuts it down.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
The prefrontal cortex is the logical reasoning part of your brain. The amygdala is your alarm system. So your system is instantly flooded with cortisol and adrenaline.
Wow.
To your biology, a critique of your slide deck is processed with the exact same chemical alarm as a physical predator hunting you. You actually stop responding to the reality unfolding in front of you. Instead, you're reacting to the emotional script that has been living inside you for years.
I mean, it's like having an invisible, incredibly heavy background application running on your computer.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
You think you're just typing a simple email, the present interaction, but your system is actually freezing and crashing because of this massive hidden program draining your battery in the background. That background app is the unhealed narrative. You're trying to have a 2026 conversation, but your nervous system is fighting a battle from 10 years ago.
That is exactly how it functions. And because that background app is consuming all your processing power, it completely clouds your discernment.
Right, you can't think straight.
Exactly. Because these unexamined narratives quietly shape our interpretations, we begin to listen through defensiveness. We perceive threats through the lens of those old wounds rather than present clarity. You start preparing rebuttal or, protecting your image before your colleague has even finished speaking.
You're not even hearing them anymore.
No, you are no longer in the room. You are in the narrative.
And because these narratives live so deep within us, they don't just stay in our heads. We move from the mind's stories directly into the body's alarm system. The book details how this manifests in our habits at work. When old narratives are touched, the nervous system quickly moves into protection.
Yes. It's a deeply biological shift.
Right. And at work, this manifests as the drive to constantly manage perception. We overfunction, we people please, we self-silence or we flee into defensiveness and control. Outdated protective habits just silently govern our behavior.
Exactly. You aren't just annoyed. Your body's preparing for battle or preparing to run. You lose your grounded center.
Yeah.
You cannot respond to workplace pressures or conflicts with maturity because you are caught in a literal state of survival.
I hear you, but let me ask what I know a lot of people listening are probably thinking right now.
Sure.
In my industry, and I know a lot of listeners out there feel in theirs too, if we don't move with intense speed and urgency, we lose clients, we lose deals.
Right. The pressure is real.
Yeah, so isn't toxic urgency just like a buzzword for working hard and being driven? Where is the line between necessary functional speed and this panicked survival state?
That's such a common pushback. But if we connect this to the bigger picture, we have to look at why the body is moving fast.
Okay.
Are you moving fast because the situation logically demands it? Or are you moving fast because your internal alarm is blaring? These physiological reactions are evolutionary mismatches. They were meant to help us cope with physical danger. They were never meant to lead our adult professional lives.
That makes a lot of sense.
The Insight for Alignment framework clarifies a crucial distinction here. Functional speed is moving quickly with absolute clarity and intention. Toxic urgency, on the other hand, narrows your awareness. It abandons discernment.
So toxic urgency is when you speak before you've settled, like you overfunction or overexplain because something inside you believes that quickness will somehow restore your sense of control.
Precisely. You are basically mistaking your own panic for productivity.
Oh, wow. Mistaking panic for productivity. That hits hard.
It does. Urgency of that kind rarely produces depth or sustainable results. It just pulls you further away from steadiness. You are reacting impulsively to soothe your own nervous system, not because the business problem actually requires a rushed, half-baked response.
Okay, so we've got this hijacked biology. I'm operating out of my own panic, but we don't work in vacuums. What happens when I bring that hijacked system into a room full of other people? Because the book makes a massive point that presence and the lack of it is entirely contagious.
Completely contagious.
These narratives seep into the room, they occupy space, they become the stories told that are now living inside the culture of the team, right?
Yes, the unhealed narratives don't just stay inside the leader. They imprint upon the culture, both inner and outer. A leader's internal state inevitably becomes the team's external atmosphere.
Always.
If a leader brings emotional unpredictability, unexamined narratives, or guardedness into a meeting, the team adapts to survive that specific environment.
Think of a leader not as a thermometer reflecting the room's temperature, but as the thermostat setting it. If the thermostat is running on a broken, unregulated wire, the whole house is going to sweat or freeze.
That is a perfect analogy. Or like a glitching Wi-Fi router.
Yeah.
The whole team is at the mercy of that unregulated signal. And they adapt by self-silencing.
Right.
They start communicating strategically to avoid setting the leader off, rather than communicating truthfully about the actual work. They end up managing the leader's emotions instead of doing their jobs. And the book brings up a fascinating point here that we frankly often ignore.
The financial impact.
Yes, the financial impact.
Yeah, the text explicitly states that this isn't just a people problem or, some soft HR issue. It is a literal budget problem.
Exactly. On a professional scale, very few people look at the impact of this unregulated relational culture in terms of financials. But the reality outlined in the Insight for Alignment Masterclass is that this drift in culture, this drift in trust and safety, actually translates directly to massive financial deficits.
It's quantifiable.
Yes. It leads to profit margin loss, wasted time, and escalated risk. Companies can literally fail because of unhealed wounds and narratives dictating strategy.
It even mentions investors pulling out, right?
It does.
Because sophisticated investors, they can walk into a space, sit in a boardroom for an hour, and they can identify that the leadership is compromised by emotional chaos. They see the thermostat is broken, and that perceived risk becomes a tangible loss quarter after quarter.
It's true. But let's contrast this chaos with what the book calls trustworthy leadership, because the text highlights a very powerful real-world case study to show the alternative.
Satya Nadella at Microsoft.
Exactly. Satya Nadella.
Oh, this is such a good example. Let's really dig into what he did there, because it wasn't just like a surface-level corporate rebrand.
No, not at all. It was a fundamental rewiring of the company's internal architecture. When Nadella took over as CEO, Microsoft was notoriously known for a culture of internal competition, defensiveness, and what was often described as a know-it-all attitude.
Right.
People were terrified to be wrong, which meant they were terrified to innovate. They were constantly in that protective, threatened biological state we just talked about.
They were all acting out of toxic urgency and that deep fear of failure.
Exactly. And Nadella recognized that to change the output of the company, he had to change the internal state of the leadership. He started with empathy. He famously championed this by giving his senior executives the book Nonviolent Communication.
Wow.
And he didn't just tell them to play nice. He modeled a different way of being present. He shifted the focus from being a know-it-all to a learn-it-all.
Which completely lowers the biological threat level. I mean, if the goal is to learn, then a mistake isn't a threat to your safety or your belonging anymore. It's just data.
Precisely. It neutralizes the amygdala response.
Mm-hmm.
He emphasized active listening. He monitored vulnerability. When things went wrong, he didn't fly off the handle and trigger everyone's fight or flight. He brought a grounded presence that permitted others to become more grounded.
It's that contagious presence again.
Yes. Over time, that empathetic, steady presence reshapes the organization's emotional climate from the inside out. It moved from a rigid, guarded internal posture toward a highly collaborative, psychologically safe one. And the financial results of that shift are, of course, historic.
This raises an important question, though. How is that kind of trust actually built on a daily basis? Because, you don't build it by just handing out a book or printing some core values on the break room wall.
No, you certainly don't. Trust is built by repeated relational experiences. It is built by the emotional steadiness a leader brings to tension. It's the lived experience of that thermostat staying regulated when the pressure spikes. People need to know which version of you is going to show up when things go wrong.
Right. And the ultimate stress test for this isn't the calm, everyday moments where everyone agrees with your brilliant ideas. It's when actual conflict breaks out. How does presence survive a direct clash? So what does this all mean for, say, you on a Tuesday morning? You and a coworker are both triggered. Your unhealed narratives are clashing head-on with their unhealed narratives.
A recipe for disaster.
Exactly. You're both in your protective habits, ready to fight over a project deadline. How do you stop the spiral?
It means recognizing that presence in conflict slows the momentum of reaction. It creates a vital pause. The book emphasizes that emotional intelligence isn't about suppressing your feelings. It calls it emotional stewardship.
Emotional stewardship. I love that.
Yet you feel the anger, the frustration, or the fear, but you do not let it become the unquestioned architect of your conduct. You use that pause to de-escalate your own nervous system first. Then you ask yourself the crucial question: what belongs to this moment and what is older than this moment?
That is such a powerful question. What is older than this moment? Like, is this argument really about the Key 3 timeline, or is it about my deeply rooted fear of being dismissed, clashing with their deeply rooted fear of losing control?
Exactly. Most of the time, the fight is about the ghosts in the room, not the timeline. And once you have that clarity, you can engage in what the book calls repair. And repair is profound because it requires moving beyond defending your intent and instead acknowledging your impact on the other person.
Which is incredibly hard. Because the ego hates that. The ego desperately wants to say, but I didn't mean it that way. You're just misunderstanding me. Stop being so sensitive.
Well, the ego's primary job is defense.
Yeah.
But emotional maturity, emotional stewardship sounds very different. It sounds like looking at your colleague and saying, hey, I was incredibly stressed about the deadline, and my tone in that meeting was completely out of line. I can see that I shut you down, and I own that.
That script right there changes everything. I shut you down, and I own that.
It really does.
It takes the abstract concept of repair and makes it real. It isn't just a vague corporate apology like, I'm sorry you felt that way, which is, let's be honest, really just an insult disguised as an apology.
100%. It's dismissive.
Yeah. Genuine repair is a return to the relationship with greater honesty. It proves to both of your nervous systems that the relationship can survive truth without collapsing.
And that proof is what builds the invisible architecture of a team over time.
But let's be honest here. It's so easy to sit and listen to this analysis and just nod along. We all want to be the Zen master of the boardroom. But when the pressure is actually on, we are all going to falter.
Absolutely. We're human.
Right. We're going to snap, we're going to get defensive, we're going to lose our center, and our background apps crash the system.
And the author explicitly expects that. The secret isn't achieving some state of perfect enlightenment where nothing ever bothers you. That just isn't reality. The secret is about the mechanics of coming back. The text calls this the rhythm of return.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Presence is not a fixed state that you reach and permanently inhabit. It is a skill. And it's a skill built through tiny, repeated actions, not, dramatic mountaintop retreats or week-long corporate seminars.
Right. A crucial part of this rhythm is returning without shame. Because when we lose our presence, our instinct is often harsh self-criticism. We think, ugh, why did I snap at them? I'm a terrible manager. I read this whole book on mindful leadership and I'm still doing it wrong.
But that shame just deepens the fragmentation, doesn't it? I mean, it keeps you entirely focused on yourself and your own failure instead of actually repairing the moment with the other person. You're still trapped in a narrative, just a different one.
Precisely. Shame is just another background app draining your battery. Gentle honesty, on the other hand, restores biological regulation.
Mm.
It's about having the grace to say to yourself, I left myself in that moment. I became reactive. What do I need to do to come back?
And the book gives us incredibly practical, small tools to do this. It lists specific anchors you can use to pull yourself back to the present moment when you feel that biological hijack starting.
Small anchors are everything.
Yeah, we aren't talking about meditating for an hour. We're talking about a 30-second pause. Softening your jaw, like literally just unclenching the muscles in your face. Taking a single intentional deep breath before opening the door and entering a room. Or just asking an inward check-in question. What state am I bringing into this conversation?
Yes. The goal is not to never be pulled away from your center. Life will pull you. The market will shift. Stress will happen. Unhealed narratives will get bumped into. The goal is to recognize the disruption faster and re-enter the moment with greater coherence.
You drift, you notice, you anchor, you return.
Exactly. It is a lifelong practice of building that invisible architecture, brick by brick, breath by breath. It is deeply sustainable precisely because it relies on micro-practices rather than massive, sweeping life overhauls.
So what does this all mean when we put the pieces together? We've explored how our unhealed narratives, those deeply rooted stories about our safety and worth, pull us out of reality and into old survival scripts. We've seen the biological reality of this, how the amygdala hijacks the brain and floods the body with toxic urgency. We've talked about how our unregulated nervous systems act like broken thermostats, dragging our teams into chaos, crushing trust, and even causing massive financial and operational deficits.
All from those internal narratives.
Yeah. And we've learned how the simple, unashamed practice of returning through small anchors and genuine repair rebuilds that architecture.
And remember, it is a lifelong practice. You do not have to master it today. You just have to start noticing. Notice your patterns tomorrow morning. Notice what your body is doing when you are stepping into a boardroom or when you are drafting a tense email. Notice when you are reacting to the present and when you are reacting to a ghost in the room. Just notice.
We've spent this entire time talking about leadership in the workplace. We've talked about budgets, investors, and corporate culture. But as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a thought that extends far beyond the office. Consider this. What happens when you bring that same invisible architecture home?
That's the real question.
How is your unregulated nervous system acting as the thermostat for your kids or your partner? Presence isn't just about how you lead a company or how you manage a team. It might be the only thing that dictates how your family remembers you. Because, as the text so powerfully reminds us, what is your presence teaching before you even speak?
Yeah.
People might forget your decisions or your vision, but they will never forget how it felt to be led by you or to live with you. Presence is not just how you lead, it is how you leave people.